Hi there, welcome back. My name is Abu and welcome to the second video of this video series. In the last video, we finished off with our first quiz and we created a couple of components and we ran the components in the main app component. Now, VS Code comes with an internal terminal. Basically, I closed my terminal, the one I was running initially. So I want to show you how you can run your application in the same window other than having your application running on a different terminal in a different window and you have to move back and forth over these different windows. So in VS Code, you can just click up here, terminal, and straight away you can create a new terminal down here. And remember the code for running your application. So this should run this application again. Give it a couple of seconds, let it run. You can actually close this. It will still run in the background, so you don't have to worry about it. I need you to notice something here. Let's assume we have 10 components, for example. So I'm going to copy this third component and I'm going to create like 3 more components from this. I could use Control C and then come down here, Control V to copy this, but VS Code has a shortcut if you want to copy anything. For example, if I want to copy this line where I am at right now, if I want to copy just the line that you see here, all I have to do is I press Shift and Alt and the down arrow. As you see, it's copying that line a couple of times. But if you want to copy multiple lines, let's say I want to copy this whole component, I'll highlight and I hold Shift, Alt, and the down arrow. And you can see I'm copying the third component a couple of times. I have this number of components. This is a lot of components. Let's assume you're building your application, for example, and you have to build all of these components. So they're like 20, 30, let's say 100 components for that matter, for the sake of argument. And now we have to bundle all of these components inside here. So in this app.js module, this is going to crowd this app.js module. As you notice, this is a lot of components in one file or in one module. So we don't want to have this. Basically, we want to have a component only do exactly what it's supposed to do. I don't want a component like app.js to have another component inside of it, which is doing something else. So every module should contain one component and that component does exactly what it is supposed to do. So I'm going to remove all of this, highlight everything and remove. We don't need them. Save the changes. Back to our browser. As you see, we still have my React app and the components that we created. I want us to move these components out of this file. This module should only have this app component and it will register these components in here. But we want every component to be in their own module. So down here, when you go back to the navigation area, as you will see, now in the source file, I want us to create our component files here. So right click and new file. Also notice how I have named this component. Every component by convention should have a capital letter when you're naming it. And as you can see, this app is a component, app.js, and this other file, index.js, HTML, are all having lower cases. But any component that is created should have the first letter as an uppercase. So, first component. Now, a component, like I said, it should have 2 things. A function and a return statement where it's going to return something that's going to be rendered and then it has to be exported. So naturally what you're supposed to do is you have to come down here and say constant and then remember the ES6 syntax, arrow function, and then that. And then you return something here. For example, I'll return a div here and then first component like this. And then down below you have to export. So this is how you build your component. This is how you create your component. Like I said, basically it's a function, which is here. And the function needs to have a return statement like this. And you have to export that function that you created. Basically, this is a component already you have created. Now, in app.js, we have to import that component. Remember that this is a different module and this is a different module. We can't just come down here to app.js and say we want to render first component like this. This first component is basically this one here. Let me just rename this. So this first component here is the one that we have up here. But now I want to import this component here, but remember it's from a different module. So this means an app component. So on the top, we import from. Now, when you're importing, I want you to notice something here. This app.js and first component.js are all in the same directory, which is the source directory. When you're importing that file from the same directory, all we do is put a period and a /, and VS Code is going to list for us every file that is in that directory. As you notice, these are all the files in the source directory and which are also here. So I can just go ahead and click first component right here. From first component, click on that. So I want to rename this to something else. Before, what you do, you'd put your mouse here and then delete this and then name it something. But I want to show you something really cool about VS Code. So Control Z, have this back to how it was. So I want to have two cursors and I rename two things at the same time. I want you to notice something here. Let me just move this down here. I just want to show you how the VS Code is really, really cool and you can use it to simplify your life as a programmer. So I can have this mouse here. There are two ways of doing this. I can highlight all of first component, highlight all of this all the way there. And I hold Control and press D. If you notice, I have one cursor up here, another cursor down here. So anything that is named first component exactly like that will be highlighted. So Control D selects anything that has the same spelling of what you highlighted before. So we want first component. I will highlight first component, that, and then hit Control D. Now I have two cursors and I can move them where I want. You notice both sides are moving. So I want to rename this component like that, first component. You notice down here is renamed and up here is renamed. All right. Now I want to bring in this first component from the other file, the other module. So down here, I will come and I want to put it all the way to the bottom. So I want to bring in. So I'll save this. Then back to our terminal. What do you know? Welcome to first component. This is what we have here. As you notice, I can now do away with all of this. I can delete this and also delete this. I don't need this anymore. So this will break. So I have to delete everything here. And when I save this, I should only have one welcome to first component. And this, my React app is coming from app component.js. So now if you notice, my app.js module is very clean and very, very neat. I've moved my first component out here. And in my first component, I just import the module and then render it in the app component.js. Very, very easy, very, very neat. Everything looks really, really great right now. So in your next quiz, I want you to create your components that you created. Just move them out and put them all in other files. Make sure that they are running, import them in app.js, and come back and look at my solution. See you then. So in my solution, in the source.js file, first things first, I'm going to create my other components. So right click and create a new file, and I'll create another one. Now, remember the extension that we installed called snippets, this here, the React Native and React Redux snippets. Now this is going to help us. We don't have to write everything that I showed you from the first component. There's a shortcut we can use using this extension. Let me show you how it works. Now in my second component, so all I have to do is type in React arrow function component, and I want it to be exported like that. Simple as that. Press enter. What do you know? The same exact look, remember in my first component, is this. The same exact look is what I have here. So I didn't have to type all of this. All I did was type in RAFCE, React Arrow Function Component, and I want it to be exported as a default export. Simple as that. And it picks the name automatically from the module that you created, which is also really, really nice. So this up here, import React from React, is what will handle the JSX in case we have to use JSX, which we are using, of course, down here. So I don't need to do much here. Save this. So I come back to my third component and I'll type in React Arrow Function Component and make it a default export. Press enter like that and I save this. This will not run in the app.js file. So back to app. So this will not run unless I import it. Import from same directory, enter and / and I have second component and I come down here and I register second component, self-closing tag. So one more time, import from, and then it should give me third component and I come down here, call third component, self-closing tag. And when I save this, back to my browser, and there you have it. The same exact look as the first time when we had all these three components inside app.js. So we took everything outside of the app.js module, and now it looks very, very neat and very, very clean. Everything is self-explanatory. This is our first component, this is second component, this is third component, and these components are all coming from the same directory, and these are the modules that they're coming from. Very, 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 very easy. But then also we have another problem here. Let's just assume again, for argument's sake, we have to create 500 components. Okay, that might not be logical, but let's just assume we have to create 500 components. We shall populate this source directory with a lot of components in here. There will be so many components in here, but that's not what we want. So we just add another directory inside here. You can right click and add folder here, or I didn't show you this. There are options up here. You can add new file or add new folder. So I want to add new folder, make sure the source is selected, and I'm going to call it, again, this is a folder. You don't have to write it in capital letters, but if you want, you can. But by convention, it's not in capital letters. I'll call it components. Press enter. So I have another directory inside source directory. I want to move every other component that we created except the app.js. So move all of this. You can drag all of them into components directory, put them there. So are you sure you want to move these components? Yes, move them there. And now we have a directory. Obviously this is asking me to update my import statement, but I want to show you how you're going to update this. So I'll just have them say no. We have this folder called components, and the source directory is also now looking very, very neat. This is perfect. So if we have like the 500 components, we can have them here. And then also inside the components, you can have another directory. You can create new folders there. Let's say you want to handle the UI. Let's say this folder is going to handle some business logic that will do A, B, C, D, E. This other folder, like you notice, the React website has the blog, the tutorials, then you have the getting started part. So you can put all of this in different folders, as many as you want, as long as it's in the components folder. So our application is definitely going to crash, mostly because these modules are not in this directory where we imported them from. So if you go and check here, fail to compile, what is it telling us? No such file or directory. This one here in the source, open first component.js. This is a quick fix. I want to show you how this is going to work. So I'm just going to take this out, all of it all the way there. And now if I hit period / I should see everything in the source directory, and components folder is also here. So go into that, press / again. Again, I'll see everything that's in the components folder. So I want first component, same thing again here. I don't want this, and I don't want this. Take it all out, / go to third component, save this. Back to the browser, and it's now working. Same exact look as we had before. So basically, we can move around these components inside the source folder any way we want, provided these import statements point exactly to that location where these files are located. When you have that and you call the components, everything should be running as smooth as possible, just as you've seen. So everything is looking very neat, and we have refactored our whole application. And from here on out, we're going to start getting our hands even dirtier with React. So for your next quiz, I want you to create another component in the components directory. Imagine you're building an e-commerce website. So create a couple of components in there and display a list of products that you're selling in your e-commerce website. So spend about 10 to 15 minutes on this and come back and look at my solution. See you then. So for my solution, this is really easy. I will go to the components folder and I will create another file here. So I'm going to call this products. Again, remember the convention. Every component should start with a capital letter. Actually, to make it even better readable when your application grows, you can call it products component like that .js. And so remember, again, using the extension we installed, React arrow function component, and I want it to be exported. Press enter. This comes in. So we have this div, and now we want to have a list of products, either an ordered list, or I could use an ordered list like that. Emmet picks it up, enter. So my first list item is going to be shoes, and second list item is going to be shirt. To make this easy again, I can press Shift and Alt and then down arrow, copy this multiple times, and then I can just change this bags. I want this to be brush, and finally I want this to be computer, and then I'm going to save this. So back to app.js, I have to import that component I just created. So import components from, go to components folder and search for products component like that. So down here, we don't need this anymore. This was for practice. As we're building this application, we should bring in products component, self-closing tag. And to make this clean, we don't need this two all the way to the top. Delete that. And when I save this, I should only have the products component with my list of products that I have in my e-commerce website. This still looks a little bit, it's not very nice, but we shall bring in styling in the next video. But for now, this is what we have, and already our application is looking good and good. So I'm just going to change this. Instead of a paragraph, I want to put H1 here. Again, I don't have to worry about the second tag because of the extension that I installed. So I'll just put here, welcome to my store, like that. This is an imaginary store that we're building. So Control S to save it. Back to our browser, I have welcome to my store, and these are my products in the store. So I hope you did the same. I hope everything is working out now. See you on the next video when we now bring in styling to our React application. And like I said, we shall not use CSS. I don't want us to focus on CSS. Our main goal is going to be React. So we'll introduce React Bootstrap in the next video. See you then. Stay hungry and stay foolish.